Welcome to the Total Acre Podcast. I'm your host, C.R. Siebold. This podcast is all about helping growers unlock their potential. We aim to bring listeners agronomic insights, valuable educational interviews, real-world strategies that optimize yield and maximize ROI. This show is going to explore innovative practices, creative strategies, and breakthrough products with people that are shaping the industry, all through engaging and inspiring stories. Who better to learn from than the legendary world champion David Hula, Randy Dowdy, and Alex Harrell? Because in farming and in life, iron always sharpens iron. And the best way to grow or get better is to continually be learning, networking with peers, have access to industry leaders, and the tools, tips, and tricks, and overall quality of information. Knowledge is power. Tune in, hit play. Let's unlock your farm's potential together. Welcome, Total Acre Podcast. Chad Siebold here with Brandon Chi, Rebecca Helgett with Crop Diagnostics. We're excited to be here in Denver, Commodity Classic, downtown Denver. We got beautiful weather, kinda. What's coming, Brandon? We got
a blizzard coming.
Got a blizzard coming, so we're here now, but we don't know how we're gonna get home to it, Rebecca.
It's all right. It's all right.
So Brandon's out of Denver, Rebecca's out of South Dakota.
Yep.
We got down here on the end this good-looking guy on the end, kind of holding down Bryce America with Total Acre. Bryce does a lot with our trials, but really kind of holds together some of the agronomic know-how, knowledge, and kind of the systems that we take within YMS. So, Bryce, thanks for being here today.
Absolutely.
You guys, thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's actually a really cool time to be here. We've kind of put together a nice little handshake, high five here, Brandon, over the last week, where Total Acre has kind of inked the exclusive opportunity to work with you guys as we model out how we predictively look at yields in corn and soybeans here over the next 24 months. Excited. Congratulations. Thanks for being a part of it.
We're really excited. I mean, this happened so fast, right? Like we went to the grower clinic a month ago, and then the last couple of weeks we were like, hey, let's do this thing. And
go.
Yeah, we're excited to be part of it.
Well, it's different than most. When you look at things that are in the marketplace right now, obviously Total Acre talks about unlocking potential. Well, really what we're looking is predicting potential, right? With Crop Diagnostics. And we'll talk a little bit more about the science, but I want to introduce more of the background of how the company started, and then let's get into the science, because this is some cool stuff, Bryce, right? We get a chance to have access to some interesting things, but never have we seen another bald-headed guy that looks like me that's kind of Mr. Wonderful, right? So you're on Shark Tank. Tell a little bit of the story how you got started.
Yeah, so this was, almost a year and a half ago. I was doing grad school at Harvard, and we participated in a pitch competition that was judged by Kevin O'Leary, by Mr. Wonderful. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to apply. Like, I don't think Kevin O'Leary knows the thing about ag.
Sure.
Like, he's just a guy that, invests in consumer products on Shark Tank, and he's the mean guy. And he wants to buy TikTok. That's pretty much all.
Haircut.
Yeah, good looking haircut. But that's pretty much all I knew about him.
Sure.
But then I started doing some research, and I realized that, Kevin O'Leary had been a speaker at several ag conferences amongst farmers. He's from Canada. He's passionate about ag. His fund is actually part of the North Dakota network, and so he's actually made several investments in North Dakota AgTech companies.
Cool.
And so when I pitched to him, I pitched the vision of us, changing agriculture, not just in North Dakota, but, the rest of the world.
Sure.
And he was bought in. And at that time, we were nothing but a team and idea, no traction. It was me and my two PhD co-founders, Dr. Joseph Swift, who's a PhD plant biologist, one of the leading experts in the world in plant gene expression. He's been studying RNA in plants for over a decade. Then my other co-founder, who's also a PhD, but he's on the machine learning side. He's an AI scientist, and his background actually comes from the medical space, where he developed machine learning models to find gene expression biomarkers in humans to detect early human infections like sepsis. And so we came together as a team, pitched at this pitch competition to Kevin O'Leary, which was very nerve-wracking.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
We competed, so there were over 100 Harvard startups that applied. 8 got to pitch on stage to Mr. Wonderful. He narrowed it down from there from 8 to 4 to 2 to 1. And somehow, after rounds of getting grilled by Mr. Wonderful, we won the grand prize.
Nice.
And that was huge traction for us. That's kind of how everything got started.
Well, and it's all about the technology. Obviously, listen, Brandon, with your personality, you probably sell anything. But you take what we're looking at right now as being predictive in yield for any crop, right, is something that's unique. But when you look at, like you talked about, RNA analysis, the biomarkers, the things that are happening in our human element's been done before, time and time again. But it is something that's unique that you've brought to the world of agriculture. And so having that opportunity, we were able to kind of touch base and learn how to work together. And we are excited to be able to be that exclusive provider of data for that corn and soybean modeling. Rebecca Helget, I know you guys somewhere along the way, you had found Rebecca in South Dakota, probably shooting pheasants somewhere in the middle of but Rebecca, your background's unbelievable as well. Your agronomic background, you're the VP of agronomy. You're now basically business development, bringing this product to the marketplace and trying to figure out how we predictively look at, we talked about, even before this, we've talked about nutrient dense foods. How do we know what's in the products that we're eating? How do we know what we're growing? How excited are you to be a part of the Crop Diagnostics team?
It's honestly, it's like a dream come true. You know, God always has a bigger plan than we do. And I've been in the industry, I've sold a handful of different products over the years. And I think selling products has become just as frustrating as growers feel trying to pick the right products.
Sure.
And for me, it just got to the point where I felt like I wish I was in a better position to actually show how these products are working so that you know this is actually the one that you need, since everybody's marketing material seems to say the same thing. Sure. And so I feel your pain, farmers, because I felt the same way from the inside, but like you're talking about nutrient density foods and things like that, totally up my alley. And, you know, we got to start here, but eventually get to there. But with the things we can see through gene expression, those are things that we can proactively manage if the goal is to produce a more nutrient dense plant, or to be able to manage my nitrogen more efficiently, or to, rather than spray a product proactively, actually see that I need it and then use it. So enough of these just in case products. I better do it just in case. You know, we don't need to do that anymore. This is a way better way.
Well, now, yeah, treating the symptoms, right? We've done that for a number of years. And I think as producers think about this, that's what we do, right? I mean, there's never really been an opportunity. And if it's been an opportunity, it's been with some of the things that we've done for a number of years. And it's still kind of turns reactive. And Bryce, I know that's what we said. We stay up at night having some good conversations. And this is a company that we get a chance to talk about. And I know you're on the backside of looking at, Rebecca, some of the products and services. That's what Bryce does for Total Acre. But now getting an opportunity to see and test products on the backside, what gets you geeked up with Crop Diagnostics?
Golly, man, I nerd out about it, honestly. Just the ability to be proactive instead of reactive is huge. I mean, it could take everything and flip it over and turn it on its head. I mean, the opportunity here is immense. I mean, just to hear about what Brandon and Rebecca are doing is game changing, honestly. Not only to get ahead of nutrient deficiencies, but disease pressure. It's incredible, honestly. And I am really, really excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about the technology, Bryce. I know it's one thing to talk about Crop Diagnostics. What is it? Why are you guys so excited, right? Hook me up. So Brandon, let's talk a little bit about RNA analysis and kind of how we do look at being predictive. And I know you're doing a lot of work right now in spuds and a lot of the nitrogen studies that you're doing today, which is still relevant to us in corn and soybeans, but it's going to be a different model as Total Acre, kind of evolves that with you. But talk about the technology, just high level, if you would.
Yeah, so gene expression is pretty new to the industry, and we want to be kind of the leading pioneers of it. So gene expression, for those that don't know, is essentially the first change in the plant to any type of stress, right? So if you think about a plant, corn plant, it's got 30,000 genes approximately turning on and off or differentially expressed in response to any abiotic or biotic stress, right? And what we do is we use machine learning to mine through these 30,000 genes turning on and off to figure out which set or pattern of genes correlates to a particular stress. Right, so it could be gene A, B, and X correlates to a fungal stress, okay, but gene X, Y, and K correlates to a particular micronutrient stress. right? And we're able to use machine learning to parse through or mine through, 30,000 genes differentially expressed to figure out what's going on. What is the plant trying to tell us?
Sure.
Right? Genes in a plant tell the plant what to do. Genes in the plant tell the plant what biological functions to undergo in order to respond to stress, right? And so, and gene expression, when we say predictive, it's because gene expression is the first fundamental change in the plant before any biochemical reactions in the plant occur, before any physiological adaptations in the plant occur, and long before you see symptoms, long before a tissue sample shows you that you have deficiencies, right? And so when we talk about predictiveness, you can't get more predictive than gene expression in the plant.
And what are you talking about? When we say predictive, it really means 14 to 21 days, right? Depending on the environment is what you're kind of saying. But if you think about that, right? And I think, Bryce, I know that you get geeked up on this too, because now all of a sudden we talk about maximizing ROI within Total Acre. We don't need to make a symptomatic application, right? That we hope, that we think is going to happen. We can predictively look and see if it's going to express those certain traits to be able to have that symptom, right? So we're looking at tar spot, we're looking at all the different things that could be out there. And so 14, 21 days, some of that's still being modeled out or trying to be figured out. But when you look at, working with Total Acre, what gets you excited about building a model with Total Acre in terms of the corn and soybean side? Again, this is another 12 to 18 months out before we start modeling.
Yeah, so in terms of data capture, the reason why we get so excited about Total Acre is because you guys have been tissue sampling for years, getting 18,000 or whatever tissue samples per year, right? And getting that high quality data, gathering that high quality data, and I know you guys have been modeling it out with tissue sampling, but what we want to do is add a layer of data, gene expression data, that's going to truly unlock these growers' potential, right? Yeah. And so when I look at the corn and soybean space in terms of data capture, Total Acre was the number one partner for us. And that's why we're excited to partner with Total Acre this season and provide those insights at the next grower clinic.
Sure.
Use that data also to build an incredible model so that in 2026, we can provide those in-season insights to our early access program.
Well, and I think, I'm going to toot our horn a little bit too, because next level growers, when you look at the Total Acre grower group, they are a tier above. Anybody can join the network, right? But when you look at that opportunity to work with growers that think the way we think, that work and look at things the way we do, Bryce, I know that's unique, right? And not everybody's built that way, right? Mm-hmm. What does it take to be a Total Acre member?
Man, I would just say the desire to learn, honestly, to get to that next level. Like Chad touched on earlier, it's ROI focused. We're interested in keeping the farmer successful and profitable. So if it doesn't ROI, it's not going to make the list for products that move the needle. So I would say at the end of the day, just be proactive and willing to learn. Don't get stuck in conventional methods and be able to push the script on new ideas and new products. So,
and that's easier said than done too, right, Rebecca? Because usually there's a heavy expense or a cost or a marginal cost doing something one way versus another way. We know a little bit about the technology that Brandon talked about. How are you going to start? What are you going to do? What's the process? How do you get started?
So to get started with us, if you're a grower that wants to use our technology, we'd encourage you to reach out to Total Acre. We're currently not built to go direct, so we'll be working through Total Acre. So if you're a grower and you're interested in our technology, want to see those season insights on your farm, reach out to Total Acre and they can get you set up as a customer, and we can talk about what it takes, what you need to commit to, and things like that. And
I appreciate that. I love that. See, I did not pay her for that, but I'm talking, what do I have to do as a producer? So if I'm in Total Acre, if I'm working in the spud side of things, or if I'm in a different market, maybe talk a little bit about how you're bringing in tissue sampling versus the discs, if you would.
Yeah.
I know that's in front of Brandon, but I'm setting you up for the good
yeah.
stuff.
So it's pretty simple, and for somebody who's already taking tissue samples, it's extremely simple. So you go out in the field like you would normally take your tissue samples, follow the same whatever pattern you normally do, and as you tissue sample, we'll want to take a hole punch that goes right in this tube here, And so if we want 15 to 20 hole punches, they're already sampling 15 to 20 plants to send into the lab. And that's really it. They mail it into us, room temperature, doesn't have to be on ice, nothing like that. And then we sequence the RNA, get the insights back to them within 48 hours in the app. So it's really pretty slick.
And I think that's what we were just talking about in terms of it's got to be easy, right? So I'm sure when you guys were sitting down trying to figure out, okay, we've got this great technology, and Brandon, like, how do we press play and bring it to the market? It looks pretty simple to me. It looks like I'm old enough now that I used to hole punch my paper. Now we don't do that anymore. We got iPads, but so a little bit different generation. But that's basically what it is. You're talking about those little discs. How did you guys come up with that?
So, well, Joseph's been doing leaf disc punches for RNA sequencing for a long time. But the secret sauce is in the lab process. It's in the solution that's in the tube that keeps the RNA stable. And obviously all of our proprietary enzymes and things that go into the process. In terms of like the customer facing stuff, you know, we rely on growers' feedback, agronomists' feedback on what works and what's easy, right? Like,
Sure.
You know, we've heard the nightmares of sap analysis. You got to put it on ice and all this stuff to keep it from, you know, to keep the sample intact and make sure you get good results. Like, we don't want any of those hurdles for the grower. In fact, what we want is something that's even easier than tissue sampling, so that the ROI math or the change is so much easier for the grower. We can actually decrease the amount of labor that you're doing, because hole punching is easier than tissue sampling.
Sure.
Right? Decrease your labor. We're priced very competitively with tissue sampling. And of course, you're getting gene expression insights that are predictive, holistic, stuff that you're not going to get from the tissue sampling.
Yeah, and I think go back to being simple. Really, you don't get simple with complex usually, right? But if you have a simple gathering mechanism that you can spit out a result in the next 48 hours, I'm still now, if I have that model built, I can be 14 to 20, 21 days out from knowing or understanding what stresses are coming. I don't know, Bryce, seems pretty cool, right? When you see the easy button, I don't know, the big red thing, is it there, right? What do you like about that?
Absolutely. I think it's huge. You know, just from an ROI perspective, if you're not having to spend money that you don't need to combat an issue, I think that's huge. I mean, just the opportunity to hold on to money with this type of testing is big to me. That's the easy button right there.
Well, again, when you're talking RNA, you get big words, right? We got these RNA, and I'm not even going to try to say it, but RNA, but it's the data, the sequencing into intelligence that turns into knowledge that somebody can use, right? Now, that is what everybody wants is a cheat code. Now, David will tell you there's not a silver bullet, right? But if we've got a great start, and we think we've got the potential to finish out a crop, this is going to give us an opportunity to see any obstacles that could be in the way. So what do you anticipate? So you're talking a little bit about spuds, right? And spuds, high nitrogen product. You're looking at, I understand maybe I got some access to some information ahead of this, but knowing what type of nitrogen we use is important. What type of nitrogen is in the plant? What kind of insights can people expect to see with this type of technology?
Yeah, I'll let Rebecca talk about that.
Yeah, well, so we did do some trials last summer on potatoes where we used different rates of nitrogen and different types of nitrogen. And we were able to see gene expression was very different based on the type of nitrogen that was used, right? The one was expressed much lower than the other, we'll just say that. And so why is that important? It's important because if you think about the way we're looking at nitrogen use efficiency, right? I'm going to look at my yield, I'm going to look at my total pounds and applied. And first of all, you got to wait for yield till the end of the season to even know what that is. But also, we're scoring nitrogen products like we're comparing apples to apples. And with the data we've gathered just in this one study, we can see that this nitrogen is not the same as this nitrogen when we dive deeper into the metabolism of the nitrogen. And even the one that was expressed at the highest level, when you look at that, you might question, well, is the plant actually using it, or was this a luxury consumption, right? But when we look at the individual genes and the expression of each of those, we can see that it was being utilized by the plant. It was being metabolized, the biosynthetic pathways to turn it into amino acids and other things, that was actually happening. I'm sure if we go high enough, we will see the expression, stop.
And that's crazy, right? Because now when you start to think about, producers are now talking more and more about not just nitrogen. They're talking about how does that plant metabolize nitrogen. That's now more the conversation. And now you're telling me we can see what type of nitrogen gets used better. So we know out of 100 pounds of nitrogen, or 30%, right, is really what's getting taken up by that plant. We can decipher what type of nitrogen and what conditions is working better. And I think that is certainly a game changer, but it's certainly something we had better start to understand, right? We talk about nutrient-dense foods. We talk about how do we grow more with less. The tools that are out there are good, but how do they become great? I think this is an evolution, right, Brandon? If you look at this change in how we do things, you talked about SAP analysis. This is further down the line than SAP analysis by far. So where do you see us? I know right now you're in the spud. Where do you see us in the next 12 to 16 months, 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, so this year we're doing a lot of R&D in corn, a little bit in soybean. Other question, you guys? No.
Sure.
No, I mean, all roads lead to corn and soybean. I firmly believe that, and Total Acre is the best partner for us right now in terms of starting to get into that market, because you guys are the upper echelon of growers, right?
Sure.
You guys are the early adopters, and we want to work with you guys. In terms of spuds, we are launching a commercial product in potatoes starting in May. So
okay.
We're hoping to be giving in-season insights to our potato growers starting in May. And then in 2026, we're looking at in-season insights for our corn growers.
It's right around the corner. Are you still looking for spud? I'm sure there's some spud guys running around. I'm actually looking at all kinds of variety of growers out here. They're not just corn and soybeans. Are you still looking for spud guys? Are we too late to get some spud folks on there? I know we have Total Acre growers or spud guys.
Yeah.
But you still looking for partners for the spud guys that are listening?
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely looking for spud growers. Anybody that's interested, please reach out, because we'll have our beta product ready in May, and we want really good feedback, because we're going to be iterating fast to make sure we're getting the best insights to these growers.
So concentrating on nitrogen out of the gate, Bryce, if you think about where we're at, right, we look at all the different spectrum. We talk about tissue sampling, we talk about ratios, we talk about all the stuff internally. When you start to look at now another tool that we can bring into YMS to be able to help perfect our data, kind of crazy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, just what Rebecca was talking about earlier, just the conventional thought process surrounding NUE. I mean, she's talking about, the breakdown of that conventional thought process. You're getting into different utilization curves based on product, type of nitrogen. That's huge. That's just one example of how your technology is already changing the industry. I mean, that's just the surface, honestly. It's incredible. So,
well, I know if David or Randy were up here right now, they would talk about we've got to take it back to yield, right? It's great that it's in 2026, but I think it is an advantage, right, to be able to be a Total Acre member. They're going to be able to have insights. So if you're interested, please reach out. But it is really cool to have that extra insight. Even though it is spuds, we're going to know and better understand how that product works. Our growers are not only willing, they're excited to be able to help provide things that will kind of model out the future of the way we grow corn. So if you're looking at, Rebecca, I'll give this one to you. If you're looking at the technology from an agronomic standpoint, what do you get excited about? I know you're talking about nitrogen, but what about phos? NPK, right? Is that the next iteration?
Yeah, well, we're definitely looking at those, but since you asked what I'm excited about. I'm excited to see the disease pressure that is asymptomatic, because when there's no symptoms, people think there's no disease, and that is not what's happening. You can see the soil test, the DNA testing that shows the presence of multiple diseases. And, when growers see that, they're like, oh, I had no idea. So, that's the beginning of the season, but once they're in the middle of the season, if the plant is asymptomatic, they think everything's good. When the reality is, if your plants are trying to not catch a disease, or maybe 3 or 4 diseases, that energy is diverted from reproducing and growth to, I don't want to get sick, I want to stay alive. So that energy is being used the wrong way versus reproducing,
Yep.
which is what we want. So
Absolutely.
that's what I'm excited about. But to answer your question, yes, we're going to look into phosphorus and potassium as well.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
and you want to know the unknowables, right? So we had Alex and David up here talking with Pioneer, and they were saying, hey, what's the limit on corn production? They don't know, right? Nobody knows, but they're saying 1,000, right? And on soybeans, we're saying 350, right? Well, not knowing that what's knowable 7, 14, 21 days out, that is going to be a huge game changer for us as we make opportunities in our programmatic approach. We talk about it all the time, but everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the face, right? Well, now if I know I've got something coming, Rebecca, to your point, in 21 days, what do I do to make that adjustment? Are we prepared to make those adjustments? And Bryce, I know agronomically, that's exciting.
Yeah, it can totally flip crop management tactics on its head. It could totally, I've said it, I'm just reiterating the same point over and over again, but it could totally change the way we farm. And it's neat to see Total Acres get that opportunity before anybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brandon, there's 2 or 3 things in my mind that are super important to growers like myself. It's how much money, right, do I have to spend on equipment, inputs, all these other things. And now we got another piece of technology, going to cost more money, right? When we start looking at the cost, and you had mentioned it earlier, it's going to be somewhat in that range of tissue sampling. We've been tissue sampling for Malix, right? You guys, all these testing that we've been utilizing since the late 60s, early 60s? And so now it's not a base saturation in soils, or it's not looking at these Malix on these tissues. It's now something that we can get for the same cost potentially as a tissue sample. How many times throughout the season do you do the disc test?
Yeah, so as many times as you're already doing weekly tissue samples, replace that with a technology that's easier to use and it's going to provide you better insights.
Sure.
I think that's where we start, right? So that's why Total Acre growers are doing weekly sampling already, and we can replace that with something that's easier, faster, and better. But ultimately, I think once we see what kind of insights and how that impacts your crop management and your ROI, right?
Sure.
That is when I think we can gain real mass adoption. So in terms of calculating your ROI, we have genes that can actually predict future yield, right? And so, to some degree of accuracy, right? But there's high correlation that we found between genes and yield, right? And so, we took these samples at the early vegetative stage. This was in potatoes. And those genes at the early vegetative stage were highly correlative to yield. When those genes expressed highly at the vegetative stage, you ended up with really high final yield. When those genes were lowly expressed, you got low yield at the end of the season. So you start to have an understanding of sort of yield velocity, right? And because of that, you have some kind of idea of what your final yield is going to be. You can actually calculate your real-time ROI. Stealing a term that you use, Chad.
Sure.
And I think that's so impactful for growers to be able to see, okay, sure, I'm paying $25 for these hole punches, but man, to be able to calculate that real-time ROI to say, if I add this product or if I add an application or make an additional pass, is that going to give me the yield, a great enough yield increase to cover the cost of making that additional pass?
Look at the marketing advantages there, right? Now all of a sudden, if we are in this predictive mode, yield potential, right? But real-time ROI, if I'm in season now and I'm in, maybe it's late August, right, where I'm at, maybe we could, we're always saying, hey, we want that last irrigation event, do we need it, do we not need it? But nutrient, do we want to have some white drops, do we want to put a little more in? What do we need out there? But now if we're looking at marketing opportunities too, I'm sure everybody that's kind of oh, there's these, we can do this, we can do that. But just the marketing opportunities alone as you get that yield prediction, right? Like operating lines, if we can get discounts for operating lines for utilizing, I don't know, Bryce, when you see the predictability, the scalability, number one, very simple to be able to use a technology like this. New lab in Denver. I don't think you've toured it yet, but all the new things that are coming, right? What concerns you, right? Not about the technology, but benchmarking everything that Total Acre has done. Now taking a new technology and blending that. Tell me a little bit about that.
Man,
What's that look like?
I hope it doesn't outdate anything we've been working on at this point. We put a lot of effort and time into developing, analysis based on tissue sample and soil recommendations. So I just think, for us, we need to be adaptive. We need to adopt new technology like this because that doors will open due to technology like this. It not only helps on the product development side, but genetics. I mean, the scope is unreal about what you could achieve with this kind of technology.
And even historic tissue sampling, we talked about, even like going back to look at benchmarking of if-then statements, right? Like if we were in this scenario back in even 3 years ago and we seen these levels, going back to the P to Z ratios and what we seen back then, it's going to be interesting to see the correlations. And again, I kind of get geeked up about that. I know you do a little bit more, but I mean, having that library is what I'm going to call it, access to that library of, hundreds of thousands of tissue samples is going to certainly help build out the predictive model. So I would assume that's the high five that we like on the backside and the handshake that we made.
Yeah, absolutely. I think looking forward, we're going to see patterns in our data and see how gene expression correlates to all the tissue sampling that you've done. And we could definitely go and look back at all the historical tissue sampling that you've done and make predictions about what happened there. And you didn't know this back then, but we can make predictions about that based on what we see with our
what you left on the table, and all the
Exactly.
producers are going to be like, come on, Brandon, I had 250 sitting out there and all I did to do this. Come on now. I just love the fact that you guys are here, number one. Thank you for being here. And then in terms of like the technology, I'm excited to work with you guys. I think what you'll find is they're very humble. And to me, Brandon, that's pretty novel in this business, in this space. You guys have something that nobody else has. As you move forward within Total Acre with the group, I think you're going to love working with that group. Maybe not the guy on the end over here, but everybody else is pretty cool. And then that grower group. None of this is possible, by the way, without the growers, right? We like to high five and talk about all the cool stuff, but it's not possible without the growers. Rebecca, maybe talk about how you plan on working with growers.
Well, I always like to, throughout my career, get feedback from the customer because that's what matters. And if you're not delivering a product that the customer loves and can use easily and is getting value out of, there's really no point.
Sure.
Right? So we're planning on having quarterly meetings or webinars with the growers that are participating so they can see the insights that we're getting from the potatoes this year, because there will be overlap, right? And things that you can take away from one crop to another. So that'll be fun. I think people will be really excited about what they see in that. And with the growers we work with, I know I personally would like to know if they're struggling with one certain thing that they just can't figure out. That's what I've been asking our potato growers kind of when I onboard them, like, what's the one thing that you just can't figure out, and I had one customer, he's doing 4 fields for us, and he said 3 to 4 weeks into the season after emergence, I have phosphorus deficiency every year and I can't fix it. So I'm like, noted. So we can pay attention to those fields. So, it's interesting to know what people's biggest thorn in their side is, I guess.
Absolutely.
So we can maybe figure that out for them.
Rebecca, you taught me this a long time ago. There's a reason the good Lord gave you a set of 2 ears, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, listening to a grower and evolving that product over a period of time, I'm excited to where we are today, right? But where are we going in the future? The sky's the limit. So thanks, you two, Brandon Chi, Rebecca Helget. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for being a partner. Bryce, thanks for coming on. Always good time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chad.
Thanks.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in today to this episode of the Total Acre Podcast. Hey, if you enjoyed it, you like the conversation, be sure to subscribe. You know the drill. Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Go give us a click, give us a like. Until next time, though, keep pushing forward. We hope that you found something unique, something powerful here that might help you unlock your farm's potential. We look forward to seeing you next week. Be safe. Talk more here soon on the next Total Acre Podcast.